Your code is intellectual property. It's one of the most important assets inside your company, and you know that. As a CTO, IT manager or team leader, you are aware how much time and money were spent on developing your IP. And you know how important it is to protect this property, and not to lose a single line of code. This is why you should back up your Git repositories. Well, you can say, okay, but Git itself is a backup tool, right? Well, not really. You don't have to look far. April, June or December 2020 are just a few crashes of Git services where your code was unavailable for a while. Could backup be even unavailable? That sounds ridiculous and shouldn't be the case in modern organizations. In this video we will talk about advantages that come with using third-party Git backup software like GitProtect.io over using Git provided commands like Git Clone or Git Mirror. Speaking of Git, backup is not that straightforward thing. One of its primary functions is clone. As you probably know, clone allows you to clone the repository, which means creating a local and fully functional copy. But what does this feature actually do? Contrary to svn and the checkout command, Git Clone creates a complete copy of the repository, every version of every file from the beginning of the project. To achieve that, project directory is generated on our machine, remote tracking branches are created, then the fetch operation is performed, and finally the poll function for the default branch is invoked. Now all it's left to do is to set addresses for origin, which clone also does for us. And that's it. Simple as that. You have a perfect copy of cloned repository. Well, almost perfect, but more on that in the moment. Of course, the clone command can be parameterized. We can play with the selection of active branch, but also we can set configuration parameters or filter some elements that we do not want to download. Here are some sample calls. This command will not download tags nor blob files. And this one will set up our favorite editor. We can also do cloning with the mirror option. That one will clone the entire repository, literally the entire as mirrored repository, which contains all the extended refs of the remote repository and maintains remote branch tracking configuration. It may seem that this feature might be enough to not worry about backing up our repositories, but that's not entirely true. The Git itself gives us a hint that cloning is not enough by entering the bundle command. That function creates a single archive file with all the refs needed to restore the repository. The bundle is a great function to create a copy of our repository. Would such a feature exist if cloning were enough? Well, I don't think so. In addition, GitHub provides an API to create a repository backup, but also in its documentation encourages the use of the third-party backup software. So now we know how bundle and clone functions work in Git. You have the tools that we can use to create copies, but we don't want to do it manually every time. Usually, we write scripts that execute the right commands at the right time. For this, we also need some own hosting to keep this copy. Simple in theory, but the practice requires us to maintain these scripts constantly, which can be problematic and time-consuming. And this should go without saying, but the scripts should have a backup of themselves. There is another huge disadvantage of this approach. Even if your script creates a copy, how do you restore the data? By using another script? You should be able to easily create copies, version them, check their correctness, and restore if needed. Maintaining your own scripts certainly seems more beneficial and cheaper in the early days of the project, but over time it always turns into a nightmare and consumes enormous costs and resources if you want to get it done right. Using third-party backup tools seems to be a good solution in this situation. We will have an initial cost related to the configuration, but we would have to pay this cost anyway. However, with a backup solution we have an advantage in the long term. Costs don't accumulate, backup of the repositories is automated, you have access to the copies anytime and everywhere, and your employees can take care of your company's development, not maintenance. So as you can see, there's a huge difference between copy and backup. Copy is fine for a daily work, but it's not enough for a real protection of your data. If you want to learn more about why you should back up your Git repositories, check out these videos. And if you enjoyed this one, leave a like, subscribe to this channel, and visit our sites gitprotect.io and zopro.com. See you in the next video. Bye.